Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia, our program, Table Africa, always hosted here by Mr. Sekou Kelleh, my partner. Today, our man Edward Amara is not in. Last Wednesday, a very interesting topic that was discussed. That topic is religion and development in Africa. And by popular demand from our audience, they requested part two of it. And so this is the part two for you. And Sekou has done all of the research and will be bringing to you all of the interesting information that you need to be informed about the role religion, if any, plays in the development in Africa. Is it affecting undermining development in Africa, or is it enhancing development in Africa? Sekou, it's good to have you. Welcome another edition of Roundtable Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Ansony. Sieh. Happy New Year, first of all, to all the viewers of Focus on Liberia and Roundtable Africa. We wish you a prosperous New Year, a Merry Christmas for those who enjoy the Christmas, and Happy Kwanzaa to those who celebrate the Kwanzaa. And I wish you all the best, and thank you for watching our program always. And I'm very happy to be here, Mr. Ansony Sieh, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so very much. Like we did, and we always try to do here, we want to remind you the topic is religion and development in Africa. Very interesting and provocative topic, by the way. Well, first of all, we will talk about, Amara is calling me. We will talk about what is religion, first of all, faith and superstition, all right? And then we'll also talk about religion, whether it's a blessing or it's a curse for Africa. We will also talk about how have the misrepresentation of faith superstition hindered, greater development in Africa. And we will also talk about does religion play key roles in making political decisions in Africa? And last but not least, can religion provide a solution to Africa's social, economic, and political problems? These are the questions we have. And with these questions, we can say to you the discussion is set. Again, I will bring in Sekou. Before we start rolling in the questions, you remember the first edition was very interesting. And, give us a prelude here of the discussion. Why this topic? Why do we have to be talking about religion and development in Africa at the same time?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Ansony Sieh. The reason why we are discussing this topic is because of the reality of the continent, the reality of our socio-economic situation on the continent. Right now, we all are aware that Africa remains the richest continent with the poorest people. And that creates that contradiction is what everybody is trying to find a theory to explain. What explains this contradiction? A man lives on a rich land, but then he is poor. There might be something fundamental wrong. So religion has been indicted here. We are looking at religion, what role it has played into this situation. Has religion helped to develop Africa in any way, or it has helped to underdevelop Africa? We want to understand it because as we speak, the continent is one of the most religious places on earth. As Western Europe is trying to do away with religion, Africa is once again embracing religion. Every street corner, there's a mosque and a church everywhere. And we have seen it. The industrial world is moving away from religion. Africa is more and more going into religion. So we want to know, how has this impacted the consciousness of the people, the culture of the people, the education of the people, and how has it impacted each and every one of us on that continent? That's how we want to look at. We are also seeing the continent is under siege by Boko Haram, by terrorist groups from all over. What brought about all these things? And what role did religion play in the radicalization of these young people? These are things that we have to answer.
Thank you so very much. And, the definition of religion, faith, superstition, you were able to provide them. And if you don't mind, let hear you on what is this religion, and let it be brief on that one because I really want to do some follow-up questions there. We have Edward Amara joining us. Go ahead, Sekou.
Yeah, religion, yeah, in itself, the word is not harmless. It's very harmless. It doesn't mean anything bad. It's just a belief system of a people trying to explain the question why of life. Because there are two questions every conscious being asks themselves. Why am I here? And who am I? Why am I here? What should I be doing? Three questions actually. So the why aspect of life, why do we exist? Why are we alive? Science has not been able to answer that. Science has only been able to tell us what is life or what we can do with the things around us, but it has not told us why we are here. So I know what water is. I know, for example, that what water can do and how beneficial water is, but I don't know why. Okay, the essence of that thing called water, why it was created, I don't know. So to explain it, religion is a way to explain those whyness of life, to say this is why this is happening and this is why this is happening. So religion usually is a belief system, usually not proven, but based on faith to explain the phenomena of life.
Thank you so very much. I made adjustment there so you can be in the middle of the space there. Thank you so very much. And Edward Amara is the co-host of this program, Roundtable Africa. He is also focused on Liberia, West African correspondent. Mr. Amara, it's good to have you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, and I'm also happy joining this all-important program today again.
Okay. I see that you are still in, is it the Far East or Far North?
Far East. I'm still in Kelleh on this street.
Okay.
Far East, around the border of Sierra Leone, and with Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Sierra Leone, Liberia, in between.
Oh. So you are very close to home, Liberia.
Absolutely. I'm just a few miles to Lofa County, and just few meters away from the border of Guinea. That is the Gegedu region, where they call it Liberia Forest.
All right. Happy New Year. And Edward, before you come in, I don't know why today I was thinking about the show, and this word kept, coming in my head. Come on, Joe. In Liberia, I said, well, why come on, Joe Rebel? So I said, well, I will ask Edward. I mean, going off track. I can't just remember. What is it? Come on, Joe. I think it was too much at some point.
Absolutely. One of the popular organized forces by the civilians in Sierra Leone when they felt that the government troop or the National Army of Sierra Leone, they call it Sierra Leone SLA, Sierra Leone Armed Forces, have actually deceived them. So it was developed out of what they call Civil Defense Force, CDF. It was developed by a man by the name of Hingandoma, hailed from Pujaun district in the southern part of Sierra Leone. And that particular district shares border with Grand Cape Mount County in Liberia. And when you cross there, by there, you have the Mendes, the Vice, and normally, even history tells us that the Mendes who are now in Sierra Leone actually hailed from Grand Cape Mount County in Liberia. So to cut long matter short, the word Kamajo is a kind of local name, calling it like hunters. Normally, when they refer to you in like Kamajo name in Sierra Leone, they will consider you to be a hunter. So the Civil Defense Force was actually organized by a man who is now late, the former defense minister of Sierra Leone, under the then Tijan Gaba government, who is also led by the name of Sam Hinganoma. So the people of Sierra Leone felt that they were being deceived by the military, because it came to a time that they call them what? Soba. That somebody can be a soldier and somebody can be a rebel. You may not identify a rebel from a soldier or the army of the revolutionary armed forces, because normally they used to dress in the same common flag or uniform as the army do dress. So it's a rebel into a full combatant as the army. So they never trusted anyone. So this Kamajos now, we are deeply religious. we are actually out of the 8 year, the African traditional religion. So they fortify themselves and they believe that they are deeply into the African traditional religion. And they were fighting both against the army and also fighting against the rebel. And sometimes they fight against the common soldiers because the civilians trusted them so much to understand that they gave them their entire trust that they were now defending them. Unfortunately, they can just tend to still inflate the same harm that the rebels were doing. In fact, they were once accused that they used to be cannibals. They eat human beings when there was need. So that is the name Kamajo. It's a civil defense force, and its reference is a kind of hunters.
And I went off topic there, but gentlemen, I think it was necessary, you know, to refresh our memory. But Sekou, what you remember about the Kamajo? My memory is that they were so fierce at the time.
Yeah, I've really heard the name, but I don't know much about the Kamajo.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like the way he described them, that sounds like the dozo you have in Guinea and Africa and what have you. These are actually traditional institutions that are no longer functioning, but people bring them back time to time whenever there are crises. You know, that's why this topic is important, because the culture of Africa has not evolved along with modernity. It's been abandoned. So whenever the African is in crisis, he runs back to those traditional institutions. So this is some of the things that have been happening. You can see during our civil war, everybody ran back to their culture. Why? Ask the question, why? Because the subconscious is telling them that's where their protection is. So why not improve it now that there's peace?
And that's what we are discussing today. And Sekou, you just refreshed my memory during our war. In my hometown of Sastan, most of the great sons of Sastan retreated to Sastan. They got their African protection. They felt that gun could not do anything to them. And so, I mean, they were fearless whenever they went to war. I remember one Paul Doe, he was a son of Sastan. Then one General Toh, whose name it might be common in the Liberian Civil War, he too felt that a bullet could not do anything to him. Our people retreated, you know, to our home. And they fortified themselves using their African tradition, and now they were ready for battle. Many of them survived, some of them died, but that is for another story. Folks, in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia, a platform like no other, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Gentlemen, let us come back to the basics. We're talking about religion and development in Africa, and you, Edward, Sekou, you define religion. Let me come to you, Mr. Edward Amara. The thing about religion is it's a set of belief, and you guys did a very good job at defining it, right? It doesn't matter whether superstition is somewhat like, because it's a core belief about something that you think has some kind of mystical powers to it and all that. But it is this belief, especially with religion now in Africa, talking about Western religion, Christianity, then, you know, we're talking about Islam. Our people are so attached to it, they look in religion for blessing. You know, anything they want to think through this almighty deity, they can get it. But what it has also done is that it has helped to keep certain groups of Africans together in unison. Is that something that is undermining this developmental mindset that Africa needs? Is that undermining that, Edward?
Absolutely. See, religion it forces us to become subservient into our way of thinking. And one of the most important things that religion preaches is equality, fair treatment, love, peace, and unity. But you watch at the canopy that is surrounding religion, you understand that it is actually creating problems more than it is solving. Because religion is making certain people to be very weak. And in Africa, we need to have sophisticated minds who are very active, not only in time of agricultural purpose, we have people who can even think beyond what has been written. Unfortunately, religion has codified the mentality of certain people. You may have come across certain people, they do not think in a realistic manner. They are not empirical into their thought. If you want to think beyond the ordinary, beyond the expectation of the Holy Quran or the Holy Bible, they will term you as an infidel. They will term you as somebody who doesn't have any religious faith. So when you watch at religion, the interpretation and the manner in which we are what we are handling our affairs, especially the big way in which Africans are interpreted it is indirectly what creating more problems and facilitating underdevelopment. Because when you see Europe, there is a kind of renaissance into their own culture. And if that renaissance happened into our own culture, it could be positive or it could be negative. But there are certain times some positive things before ever they come, negativity must happen. And when you want to make
Edward, let me call you there. There's a key point you made there. You said religion is helping to make some African lazy, and I think by that you meant mentally, right? But we're talking about development here. So this African believe that if they pray to the Almighty God, someday, somehow, something magical will happen, and maybe they will be in America or they will get this job. And so they are there fasting and praying and doing all that. Then years pass, and it's the same. So is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely. You will see able-bodied young men, people who think, even adults who are well responsible, some family members, times to be spent doing other things. They will definitely spend those time in church or in mosque, especially the churches, because I know the churches are now, especially when it means a kind of what they call it, the born again, radicalized born again. I'm talking about people who are actually fanatic into that of their mentality. They almost spend almost each day of their precious time in the daytime in these churches, praying fervently. They call them fervent Christian. These are Orthodox Christian. They will pray and pray and pray and pray. They have all sorts of vibes into their mouth with the common notion that all of their problems is definitely going to solve. And when you watch these are the same unemployed citizens. These are the same citizens who could be educated, but they remain to be employed. These are some of the citizens who are actually their educational level may definitely dampen to understand that you have nothing to do beyond what is a practical thing. And normally the pastor tells them that the solution is into the Bible. The Bible says in the book of Matthew 7:7, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you'll be found, and knock and the door will be open. They can even tell you that seek first the heavenly kingdom and all of things will be added unto you. But God never asks us to be idle. So most of those things, they use those quotations to suit them. So when you watch at the physical, at the manner in which religion is being implemented, it is contributing to idleness. And if contribute to idleness, meaning it is indirectly facilitating on that development. And most of those Christian brothers and sisters, they are mere beggars. They keep on waiting for Europeans to send goods and services to their churches. And you will see them tolling a line to collect used clothes. It could be food, it could be materials. But then watch at Europe. Where are those people? Those people sending those things to you in Africa that still have our branches in Africa. Let's support them. Even if a pastor fan in Africa, Europe, do you think the pastor is sleeping? He or she is working 3 or 4 hours or in different places. When you watch at this thing, I think it is high time we understand that prayers alone do not solve problems. Even the Bible says it, that faith without works is dead. And the faith is like, if you want to let God help you, you need to help yourself, and it should be very practical. So indirectly, religion is really a facilitator of poverty based on the manner in which people are implementing it and also interpreting it.
And Sekou, let me twist it here a little bit. We can bring religion to a certain extent, but this very religion, I'm from the southeast of Liberia. The southeast is one of the regions in Liberia where, when the missionaries went to Liberia, from what I've been told, where they started. For example, the Catholic Church started in my hometown of Sastan. So many people from Sastan, they were blessed to have education and got educated by the Catholic nuns, the priests, and many other regions. And so this is so much good, right, that religion has done for that region, and the case might be said about other regions in other parts of Africa. So why are we blending this religion that became like an eye-opener?
Thank you very much, Mr. Sieh. In order to properly understand this topic of development and religion, I think let us go and develop and define development. Mm-hmm. So if we have the definition of development, then we can now see how religion fit into it. So the few schools that religion build and what have you, then we can be able to measure that. So I had something here that we'll put on the screen. Mm-hmm. So the etymology of the word development. So I want us to really look at it. So it comes from a French developer, which means to unwrap, unveil, or reveal. So English incorporated the word in the 18th century. So it actually means to bring out potential. 2, to come gradually into existence. And 3, advance from one stage to another. So whatever development is, it has to be something that bring out the potential of something already existing, or it has to advance something from one stage to another. So that's what development is. So when we are looking at development in Africa, what are we talking about? We are looking at 3 areas: the culture of Africa, the country, that is the land itself, and the consciousness of the people. When we talk about the culture of the people, we are talking about their language, their expression and worldview, their language, their expressions, their beliefs, their values. Has it been improved? Because you don't talk development if you have not improved the value, the culture of the people, which include their language. In which way has religion developed the language, culture, and expression of African people? It has taken it away. It did not improve it. The consciousness of the people. Do Africans, when they join religion, do they consider themselves as subject of history, or they consider themselves as objects? I will give you an example. When the Jewish people talk about the Jewish religion, they see themselves as subject of history. That their father Abraham, God spoke to him, and God, through their ancestor Abraham, brought blessing to the world. So they see themselves as actors in that particular story. They see themselves in that story. When you tell me the story of Christianity and Islam in Africa, you only tell it from the colonial perspective, how you came in contact with white people and how they gave it to you. So you become an object of history. That means people acted upon you. When those people have not arrived, you did not exist. It is their arrival that make your existence to have meaning. So you are an object of history and not a subject of history. So your consciousness tells you that you did not exist before these people arrived. This is what religion is doing. It doesn't tell you about your ancestral heritage or who you are, or where you've been and where you are going. It tells you that you were nobody until you came in contact with a group of people. It's like a dark room where everything is dark and everything lay dormant until I put a flashlight and everything there suddenly come alive. That's what religion tries to portray to the African mind, that nothing existed until they came in contact with the people. So when we talk of development, let's look at it. In the culture of Africa, did our culture evolve after we contacted religion? Our institution, traditional institution, were they improved or they were abandoned? They were thrown to the dustbin. Our languages, our names, the most important thing in the culture of anybody, your cultural identity, is even your name.
And then whose responsibility it is, I like the point you're making there, whose responsibility it is to improve this culture?
It is the people. But these people now, the elite, who are the guardians of the culture of the people, the elite have conspired with the external forces. So that you have a president of Liberia, his name is George. He's answering the name of a white man. The president of the prime minister of Israel, the one I just left, his name is Benjamin Netanyahu. That is a Hebrew name. When you go to Europe, all the presidents have their European name. Go to the Arab world, no Arab leader will have a name of a Chinese. Go to China. So there's something already wrong with your elite. They are not in their cultural identity. They are presenting themselves as people who have no culture and history. And religion has not improved us in that regard. That's what I'm saying.
And Sekou, talking about just the name, right? Name is just a name. Josh Weah could go with his Weah. He could say Namwe Weah, for example. How will that change, what he knows, what he understands, and how he relates to the war in terms of development? And
that's the beginning of consciousness. Because the first thing of development does not begin by building infrastructure. Development begins with culture and consciousness. Because the people that are supposed to be the actors of that development need to define themselves, need to know who they are and why they need to do this. But if they don't even know who they are, if they don't even realize that they are great people and they needed to develop. So they have what we call mediocrity. They have the spirit of they are contented with anything. Anything, any little 2 kilometer of road you build, they say, oh, this is good. Our ancestors never developed, they were primitive people. So if we have 2 kilometer of road today, we are even okay, we've done better. Because this is the way it's been portrayed.
And
so
Sekou,
the development of the country.
Sekou,
Yes.
you mentioned the elite, the political elite.
Yes.
They are the one driving us in the wrong direction, making us to abandon our culture, not allowing us to improve our culture, bring development to us through our culture, using our languages, using our names. You are holding the political elite responsible. Yes. I don't think the political elite are stopping our traditional leaders. For example, when I was born, my father named me Sieh Sieh. That was my name. The name Ansony that you see on the screen, it sounds English, but it's not English. I formulated it myself. My father told me, I'm not going to give you an English name. So I'm saying this to say that this is also more so on our traditional leaders, our parents. Our parents gave us these English names, some of them, not all of them.
But when I talk about the elite, you see, the elite, people just limited to those people in government and what have you. No, you have cultural elite. You have political elite. There are different levels of elite. Even the religious, the traditional leaders are supposed to be elite. But the issue here is, are they in the right consciousness? Do they have the right knowledge? Even they themselves. They themselves are already operating within the colonial cultural context, which religion is fueling, because they themselves are no longer identify themselves. Because in Liberia, you have what you call the Kwi name. And that word Kwi, if you are a Liberian, you understand, it means civilized. It means somebody who is up there. So everybody wants to be Kwi. So the word Kwi there, even the traditional people are using the word already. You have somebody being a traditional leader is bearing Ezekiel. Okay? So that's not a traditional leader. That's not a tradition. These are people who are, I would call imposters. They are occupying positions that will just satisfy the modern state, but they are not really traditional leaders. So in nutshell, what I'm trying to say here, religion has not uplifted the holistic nature of development of our people, because we begin with culture, consciousness, before we get to the development of a country. Because
so when you say religion, you are talking about Christianity, you are talking about Islam, because in our African setting, that is the African, spirituality religion as well.
Yes. Okay. African spirituality, you can call it religion, but African spirituality has long been with us for thousands of years before we came in contact with Christianity or Islam. It has helped us to improve our culture.
Why is a religion? Because it's just a set of belief. That's what religion actually is.
Yeah, that's what it is. You cannot express our traditional religion without using our language, because you will not even understand the concept in it without going deep down into our languages. All right. If I want to understand the Bible, I need to study Hebrew and Greek. If I wanted to understand the Quran, I need to go study Arabic. But when I study Arabic and come back, I will condemn my tradition because I don't know it. I have not studied it.
Thank you.
So I cannot talk of development when I don't even know who I am.
And what is development in my tradition, in my language, in my culture? Because you are saying the Western development that is the development of the world today is the Westerners' culture that they have improved. Okay. The technology, some of which they borrowed, right? They have improved using their culture, using their languages, using their lenses. And that's what they have brought to us, and we accept it, and we abandon ours without improving it. And Edward, let me come to you on the issue of this language and our culture and being able to understand development, improve development using our own cultural lenses, our cultural values, our cultural technology, if I can pull it that way. Is that the way to go for Africa? Because even though this Western technology or development in civilization, modernity, whatever way you call it, it works for the Western men. Life has become easier for them. What they're using is not different from us, the same technology, except that they are using their language to do so. What is stopping us from using our languages and our culture and our beliefs to advance our culture and bring the development that we need through our own lenses?
Let me give you a quotation from Things Fall Apart, a book that I read during the time I was in my GSS level here, my junior secondary school education. It comes from Things Fall Apart. Saying, hey, written by Chinua Achebe, one of the renowned African writers. He said, the white man is very clever. He came quietly and peaceably with his religion. We are amused at his foolishness and allow him to stay. Now he has won our brothers and our clan no longer acts like one. He has put a knife on the things that held us together, and we have fallen apart. I think this summarizes everything about what the white man came with. You know, religion codified our mentality and limited us to radical thinking. And now we are only left at the mercy of the white man. When you watch at it, their religion used to be into Europe. But do you think they are religious? No. We believe that people who are in Europe, in Americas, they really pray. But they have not made prayers their ultimate choice of making decisions. We believe that if development is to come, then it needs to be something that is very empirical, and it should not be limited to one person's own idea. We are mentioning certain things about our culture, the development of Africa, the linguistic factors. What at religion? When they came with it, there are limited things to what you do and what you shouldn't do. Most of the things that they ban are what that lead to development. And you watch at Africa, we have each and everything it takes to Africa to develop. Unfortunately, because of the religious mentality that the whites have introduced us to it, it now limited our thinking to the only thing that we see in the Bible, and maybe the Quran came in by Arab.
Mr. Amara, may I hold you there? Mr. Amara, let me take you back to your quote. And you quoted from Chinua Achebe that the white man put a knife on the things that held us together. He wrote that book many years ago. That thing that held us together, the white man put a knife on it. Does it mean that it destroyed it completely, or it stayed in existence and we have not gone back to it? Which is
it is still in existence. It is still in existence. But you also watch at the demography of Africa. You watch at the most illiterate people. We are. So it is still in existence. But those of us who are not conscientized, we know the harm that religion have done, may tend to go away from it. But a bulk number of population who think and feel that they even term our education system to be responsible for the most corrupt people.
In that case, who is Africa's problem now?
The thing because religion is African problem, because Africa is just too religious. I can tell you that for free. And similarly, as long as Africa is too religious, and majority of the people in Africa are illiterate, poor, and ignorant, they limit their knowledge.
Anyway, the thing about religion is a set of belief, right? And if people don't believe it, if people don't exercise it will have no relevance. So if Africans have come to know that religion is their problem, why should they continue to believe in this religion that will not bring them power-borne water, that will not build them road, that will not bring them internet? Why are they still following this one religion?
How many Africans believe that religion is the problem? You are going to watch, you have a dedicated elite who are using religion to exploit the masses. You watch out Nigeria. It's the most popular country to Africa and probably the most populated country to Africa. Take the amount of pastors that are there and watch about poverty, the level of poverty to Nigeria, and watch at how Nigeria is religious. So even the African elite, as rightly said, our problem is not only the elite who are part and parcel of the leadership, even religious elite, traditional elite, because even religion codify, we have our ATR that limit our mentality of thinking. And you have a lot of well-educated, well-placed people of sound mind into Africa who are highly religious, and they are using that same religion to exploit others, and they even define people's way of behaving. Because religion, as we are seeing a set of belief, also define your activities. So though Most Africans have actually identified religion as our own problem. And I'm not saying they are not religious, but they do not limit their activities towards what the Bible or Quran says. They go beyond that, and their life is better. But majority of the Africans are poor, they are illiterate, they are ignorant, and they depend on this highly sophisticated and educated elite who preach to them what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And most of them, in fact, they even tend to be offering more to those who have little. Because when they start by expecting, most of this tithe, offering, whatsoever thing, where it is given, it is making these pastors and men of God absolutely rich when you remain poor, and they tell you that the solution to you is in the church. But the church is actually being made for one man, and that man is depending everything. So that is what I'm saying. Done. But
Edward,
the majority of
let me come to Sekou. Thank you, Edward. Thank you. Let me fit there. Sekou, we have to get to the solution here. You guys have done a brilliant job of pointing out what our problems are. One is religion. Religion. Africans subscribing to religions, although religions is the silver bullet to the many problems that we have, diseases, illiteracy, poverty, and all that. And they all flog the church and the mosques. They are fasting days and nights. It's been over 200 years now, plus counting. We are still where we are. Children are dying from things like malaria in Africa still in the day and age. Our political elite, religious elite, traditional elite are still telling us religion is the way. This generation need to take responsibility. How do we do it? How do we start it?
Yes, thank you. Before we discuss solution, I just want to buttress some of the things my brother just said. Like I told you previously, you can't talk development without culture and consciousness. And people, whenever we mention culture, they think we are talking about dancing, and those are just aspects of culture. We are talking about the expression, worldview, values. Okay, my judgment of what is wrong and what is right. What makes me a person when I meet a Chinese or Indian or what have you? My consciousness of how do I perceive myself in the world? How do I portray myself? The images that I portray, the value, and the thing that I see as good and the thing that I see as bad. So those things, if you don't repair them in a country, you are talking about science, technology, you're wasting your time. I would tell people, for example, take all Liberians, put them in one boat, take them to the United States. Take all the Americans. They should leave all their bags and everything. They shouldn't take anything. Put them in a boat and bring them to the geographical location called Liberia with nothing. And Liberians should go and inherit all the industries, take over the White House, take over Pentagon, and come back in 30 years and find out the Liberians in America, whether they will be as powerful as the Americans who are there now. The answer you will get is zero. The Liberians that you will take there, they will collapse all the institutions. The Americans that you are going to take to Liberia, they are going to turn that place into a paradise, not because they have some kind of genetic superiority, but it is culture and consciousness that build a society or civilization. You cannot begin with building roads and toilets. Those things mean nothing. If you put a gold chain on a dog or a pig, it will still take it into the mud because it doesn't know the value of that gold chain. You have to first of all train the dog or train that pig what this is before a big use of it. So the consciousness and the culture of the African people, if it has not improved to move into the future, you cannot be able to develop with it. There is no way. Why is it that since 50 years or 200, Liberia is about to celebrate, I know they say bicentennial, whatever. Yeah. What is the improvement? Look at the infrastructures. Look at the roads. Why? It is the culture and the consciousness of the people that has not improved. And you cannot do it. You can copy and paste the white man road, but you cannot copy and paste consciousness and culture. It's something that you develop. You can copy and paste the white man toilet, but you cannot copy and paste his consciousness and his culture, his dedication. These are things you need to build in your society. Otherwise, you cannot do it. Now let's look at solutions.
No, Sekou, before we get to the solution, you raise a lot of things there on culture and consciousness. In other words, you are saying we Africans are either not conscious of who we are and our cultural values, and abandoning it is not improving us to make us who we are. And that is our problem. That is what I'm hearing from you. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So then let me ask you, how can Africa now come to this level of consciousness in who we are, our own culture, something you believe the Westerners have, for which they will always bring the transformation that they need to make life easier.
Yes.
How?
The first step, every society have done what I'm about to tell you. It's not magic. Chinese have done it. Europeans have done it. Even Africa at some point, classical Africa, because people always think African history is restricted to the tribal history that we learn in school. But there is classical Africa, there is imperial Africa, and there is prehistoric Africa. So classical Africa have also done what I'm about to tell you. First, in order for the first building block of development of any society, first of all, is to go back in history to find the most celebrated aspect or the most important culture, classical culture that they have left behind. Go back and get that culture. It's called Renaissance. Go back and get that best of what they have in their culture and bring it into modernity and use it as a paradigm to develop. The European call it Renaissance, where they went back to Greco-Roman culture. They found out that Europe was in dark ages. They could not read and write. The Arabs have taken over Europe. They were Arabic everywhere. So they said that for us to develop as Europeans, we cannot take Arabic and Islam. We need to go back to our ancestral culture, not because we want to live like them, how they were 200 or 1,000 years ago, but pick up the paradigm, the best of what they provided at that time. Use them today as a solution mechanism to project a future. So they went back to Greco-Roman Renaissance. They translated the Greco-Roman text, and then they built a Greco-Roman civilization and rebuilt it again. And that's why today you have the European civilization. And look at, if you go today to the United States, look at the courthouse. I mean, I don't know how they can call the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Supreme Court.
That architecture you see there is Greek architecture, those pillar buildings. Every official building in America, they show you the Greek architecture. They are telling you that this is our ancestral reference. This is the reference for our culture and our value. Now,
what is Africa ancestry reference?
For Africa, our ancestral cultural reference is Kush and Kemet, ancient Egypt and ancient Kush. That's where we built pyramids. That was the time we wrote books. That was the time we were advanced in mathematics and architecture and science. It was the collapse of that civilization that led to the cultural regression of Africa. So our education should begin with the pyramids. It should begin
the consciousness of Africa would mean that we go back to that Renaissance when
Africa cultural renaissance through ancient Egyptian civilization will lead to a new understanding and a new African and new dimension. And that new paradigm, when it's provided, will create different level of sciences and understanding of life. And our culture and so-called culture and tradition have to be edited. Those parts that are not useful in our future, we discard.
So before I get to Edward, through what means do we spread this consciousness, this renaissance across Africa? How do we bring our leaders in, to take ownership of this? Because believe it or not, we will need them, because leaders will always be leaders, and their role is to lead. In order for them to be able to lead, they too, like you said, must have the consciousness that's needed.
Well, for now, we don't have a kind of conscientized society that is beyond religion. I think we need to do a careful explication, if not a research into our own history. Then we try to change the narrative, and that narrative will help us to change the headline. Having said that, we have African leaders who have not been able to think beyond the codified system that they made. Even the constitution is a corrupt one, and based on that, they are manipulating everything. I think the best way we can start it is first, we need to radicalize.
What makes the constitution corrupt? Is it because of a copy and pasted, or what? What's your
Because our constitution is not based on any African mentality. If you watch Sierra Leone's constitution, most of the clauses are a reflection of the British constitution. If you visit the Liberian constitution, most of the clauses are a reflection of or if not a photocopy of the American constitution. When you watch at French-speaking West Africa,
hold on, Edward. The British used that very constitution. The American used that very constitution, and they are better off compared to us. So if that was the they used to be better, and we're using it,
You-
what is stopping us
You are
from getting
watching at
better?
the time of the usage. You are watching at the time of the usage. The time of the usage here does not allow Africa to develop. Even the education system that they introduced in that particular usage, we understand that the education that they introduced into Africa was never meant to develop Africa. The government introduced 3 types of education: essential education, how to read, write, and also understand numbers. And this all of these writings we are just meant as serve our education to serve the interests of the white man instead of us. When you watch everything that is happening here, I think the first thing, as you rightly said, we need to conscientize the ruling elite because they are making a decision. And if they cannot make the decision, we cannot follow. Then secondly, even those because the religious leader, there is no African who is not either a Muslim or a Christian, because these are the dominant two religions that we have in Africa. This also need to be conscientized, and then need to be radicalized positively. Unfortunately, this kind of religion is de-radicalized into Africa, and they're having Western world who are radicalized, and most of what they are doing that. When you watch watch at Asia, you watch at the type of religion they are having. All of their religion is you see their gods in person. You watch at the Hindu and the Buddhist, they are not praying somebody whom they are not seeing. I'm not saying that I am against the Almighty God. I'm not saying that I am against God, that I'm not seeing Jehovah. I have strong and complete faith in him. But there are certain times we need to practicalize our own consequences that we are suffering from. But the religion that they came with is a codified system. I'm using this word codified because we are limited from thinking outside the Bible. Any Christian is limited from thinking. Any Christian who is not a radicalized one is limited from thinking outside the Bible. In fact, they will tell you, no, this cannot happen. Why do you think? If you cannot do something foreign to Africa, nothing new will happen there. Maybe we need to think beyond the patterns that have been set by the Bible. We need to think beyond the patterns that have been set by the Holy Quran. And from that, we understand certain things. But even these so-called African leaders that they have, most of them are religious, and they seem to use the same religion to navigate their corrupt attitude and even force the cow people to obey in them. And everything now is hung around religion.
Thank you, folks. You are watching Focus on Liberia. This is our program, Roundtable Africa, where we pick up the issues affecting the continent of Africa and its people, find solutions, build consciousness in Africans to take ownership of Africa, because that's the only way it will happen. That is the only way it will happen. Loan will not help us. Aid will not help us. Mr. Whiteman can be gracious enough. It will not help us. And Sekou is saying it starts with consciousness. We will know who we are. We will know our culture. Everything we do must be twined. Okay, I can borrow that word from somebody called Satya, in our values and who we are as a people. Then we will take ownership of it. We will take a short break. When we come back, we'll read comments, and then the two gentlemen will provide the solutions. We talk solution here. We don't go yelling this place here. So we take that break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned, and this is Focus on Liberia.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Thank you. I'll read some comments, and then after reading some comments, I will, host here will be able to chime on it a little bit, and then they will be providing the solution to this crisis in Africa. Like from Margaret A. Mampu-Dazin. Thanks, Sekou. You just went to the heart of the matter, reverting to the subconscious. That's deep, and yes, a whole other show, she said. Like from Abraham Bangu. They can't get tired. They can't get tired fasting. Let's hear from Bobby. We don't need the Western religion in Africa. Unfortunately, it's there. It has permeated the African culture. I don't know whether we can find a way out of it. Margaret, again, sometimes I feel like the world as a whole is a slave to religion, while those who seem to be the instigator of its radical properties are the beneficiary of its vast wealth. I hope I'm clear or my point is understood. Maybe someone understood you, Mapu. Let's hear from Afra here. How I wish to put you on my back for the splendid articulation. You are truly an enlightened son of the soil. I will use the word soil instead of Africa. Let's hear from Afra again. Sekou, you truly understand the dialectics of the subject and the discussion. Kudos, brother. He writes. Yeah, from Mohammed Keita. The moral culture tolerance of moral and ethics in the Holy Quran. That person is preaching the Quran, but he was not clear. That Florence Kingsley, right? Religions is quite different from being spiritual. The names have nothing to do with what is happening in Liberia. It is the native in Congo that brought about the failure of our society. I disagree 100%. Mohammed Keita, what happened to African science and innovation? Very good question. I think that we will bring Sekou in to talk, to discuss. This is the topic. What happened to African science and innovation? But I will use the word technology. We will have to discuss that, Sekou. Please do the research and let's get started. Sekou, you are so smart. Not only Liberia, but Africa need more men like you. Like yeah, from Florence again, Florence writes, religion is very dangerous because it has no relevance. It is the major problem that is affecting the fabric of our society. We have focus on Liberia policy analyst Carl here. I don't know what that one means. She said, exactly, Carl, which one are you saying exactly to? Human development first, she said. Maybe she has some disagreement there, but I think agreement there as well. Believing in the creator of everything in the world, you have to be spiritual because our creator is a spirit and religion cannot call it. That person writes. Let's hear from Stephen Kelleh here. This brother is conscious, Ansony Sieh. Yeah, from this dialogue, such an interesting discussions indeed it is. Mohammed again, cultural correction and rating scripts were initiated in Mali for most of Africa. Please be advised according to research. Sekou is shaking his head. Disagreement right there. Let's hear from Focus on Liberal Policy. Alan said the U.S. Constitution is a copy of Asian African principles. We have to know what was taken from us. The ideas of checks and balances of power and democracy were stolen from Africa by the Greeks, she says, and Sekou is shaking his head in agreement. Yeah, from Diallo again. Wow, very enlightening discussion. And you can only find it here at Focus on Liberia. Mampu is busy. Thank you, Focus on Liberia, for this segment on religion. Very interesting, much needed. Yes, that's why we have it here. Sekou, just a few comments there. The one I pick up is the one called that the Westerners stole these ideas from us. They perfected them, and their lives are better while we are crying.
Yes. You know, Ansony, people fail to realize that history did not start yesterday. This planet has been here for a very long time, and humanity have a very long history. Kingdom rose and fell. Civilization rose and fell. There were men out to even give you a better understanding of what I'm talking about. I will quote a scholar, a European 19th century European scholar called Count Volney. He wrote a book called Ruins of Empire. If you can find the book, Ruins of Empire, and his name is Volney, is a French. He said there are now a people forgotten who, when others were still barbarians, wrote books. They were the masters of art and sciences. But these men today are being rejected in our society as slaves because of the color of their skin. But they were the very founders of our civilization, even our use of speech. Count Volney in the Ruins of Empire. People think that Europeans came to Africa and the crewman was fishing, the Mandingo man was selling cola, the Mende man was doing that. That's the history. That's the history of Africa. This is where they want you to begin.
But that is not the history.
If that's not the history. That is the moment. That is just a fraction in the history of the African. When you look at the timeline of African history, we can go back 200,000 years. If you want to understand who you are, you have to go back. You don't have to start with the moment where the colonialists came. You have to go back and say, where did my people start? For example, I tell people, if you say, okay, I'm from the Mandingo tribe, for example, and say, okay, your people are from here. And I'll say, okay, that's fine. We are from Liberia. But I want to know 3,000 years ago, who lived in this village here? Let's do archaeology and search. You'll find out that nobody was here. They said, where were my people? Then you have to trace them. Find out that at one point, we did not even live in West Africa. We migrated and came. Most people came from Central East Africa, and then we moved forward. The evidence is in our languages, the linguistic connection. That's what is called archaeology. So we did build civilization. We did write books. We did do that, and then people don't want to understand that cultural regression took place in Africa. I advise you to read the book Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James, where he's going to tell you Stolen Legacy. In Stolen Legacy, you will find it where he will, the Greeks, who you are celebrating, the Plato, the Aristotle, the Thales, and all these great scholars, they tell you that they learned in Africa at the foot of the black pharaohs, who were the teachers of civilization. Now, if you know that, why should we begin our education, our history, our research with Europeans?
Sekou. Thank you, Sekou. Let me come to Edward to chime in on the comments. And Sekou, Edward, I'm going to point you in the direction to Sekou.
I wanted to come a little bit on religion, but maybe when you come back.
Yeah. Let me come to Edward, and then Edward, the point I want you to chime on as we read, the study of archaeology, even you read about evolution and you do research, and you see when men first appeared on the surface of the earth, if you traced the evolution of man, these men, the first humans that walk on the face of the earth, they were all blacks. And they started with technology, the fire, trying to build huts or homes, and on and on. These were black people, and the speech and language and all that. So talk to me about it. So what has gone wrong with us?
Maybe a lot of things, but we also have to have respect for the population that we found into the Western world compared to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
We must understand that maybe civilization started in Egypt, or it started in Egypt. And if you check the first, when you want to trace the human history, they will tell you about Ethiopia. But let us also have respect for the population of the blacks. We are limited. Watch at the African population, and you watch at China and Pacific. You watch at India. Their population is higher than us. That probably could be the contributing factor, or one of the contributing factors. Because they are larger in number, they can think wisely, and the larger the population, you tend to have the variations of different people who are super intelligent and they can do whatsoever thing. But you watch at Africa again, development started here. If you watch like Egypt, you watch at Egypt, no Egypt, and the Egyptians have managed to survive so successfully. I think when you see Africa, even when you divide Africa, you have East Africa. You have
intelligent people in the world.
We are intelligent. We have super intelligent people. But how many people in Africa are super intelligent?
Are we just not disciplined enough?
We are disciplined enough, but we have marketed, or we are disciplined. We are disciplined enough, but now we are no longer disciplined because of foreign invasion. And one of the foreign invasion is the religion. We have our own African traditional religion that was typically with us. Maybe if that religion, if Christianity had not invaded in Africa through the activities of the white men, maybe our thinking and our development would have been on the African pattern. But when we encourage Christianity, we accepted their own educational type. And accepting their own educational type, we forgot our own linguistic factors, and we adopted their own linguistic factors. And in adopting their own linguistic factors, we even changed our names. So our culture and our tradition, it suffered the Renaissance, but the Renaissance was not positive. It became negative. So everything in Africa just died down holistically. Before the coming of the white men into Africa, we were religious, we were having our own government, we were having our our own organogram and the way of doing things. But when they allowed the white men to come into Africa, they dominated in all aspects. And arguably speaking, let's confirm the fact that civilization could have started into Africa. We started developing tools and one so other thing, but because of our limited, they developed it into the advanced stage. Maybe there could be a growth into Africa, but there was no development. And when the white men came, they dominated everything. Now, our thinking faculty is limited to what they give us. So we are more or less like consumers because of our population. And those who we are super smart, they never stood up to the African culture. They were quick to give in to the white man way of life. And unfortunately, Africa is left at the mercy.
Sekou, let's talk about the religion aspect you wanted to talk about, and then we'll
Yes.
get to the solutions.
You know, every religion tries to provide an orientation or direction towards life. And that's very, very important for people to know. We are not against the fact that you said Jesus Christ died for you on the throne, on the cross, that alone, because you believe in that, so it brought on that development. That's not it. The fact that you believe that Muhammad is the last prophet of Allah, that's what bring on that development. No, in that case, Saudi Arabia is developed. In that case, Israel is developed where Christianity or Judaism came from. What we are talking about is that the orientation that that religion provides to use that to reason is very dangerous. For example, the African spirituality supports the fact that nature is neither evil nor good, that nature is just a force that we can manipulate forces to create whatever we want. That's the orientation that African spirituality provides. It does not tell you that there is an almighty in the sky intervening in your life here and there. Yeah, there is a creator, but nature itself that governs the universe is neither evil nor good. It is the manipulation of it to any direction is what makes it. That's what the Chinese call the yin and the yang, the opposite. So the African is ready to study nature and deploy it in any way he wants. So that orientation in African spirituality supports the idea of logic and science. In religion, they are saying that everything we need to know, a God has spoken about it and is written in a book. We don't need to think outside the book. It brings a dogmatic way of thinking. It does not lead to reasoning to a point. I will give you a very example. When you say right now, Africa is the origin of humanity, you have to quote science. The religion of Islam and Christianity will not agree. Why? Because they say we came to Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve are not African names. So these people have to come from Middle East somewhere. So the African Christian and Muslim have to reject the African origin of humanity. They have to reject that their ancestors were the first human on earth because their book gave an orientation to the Middle East. So they are not scientific in thinking. They are if you are a Christian or Muslim, you must have heard one time that Noah has a son who was cursed. And you must have heard somewhere either somebody whispered to you that black people are the cursed children of Noah. If you are Christian or Muslim, you can never deny that you must have heard that story somewhere before.
That is true.
Now, people are denying that story today, but it used to be the real story during slavery. Christianity and Islam were the beginning of the evil of the black man. Let us be realistic here. All the slave dungeon in Africa, there is either a mosque or church in it. If you go to Ghana, with the El Mina Castro, where they take the slave, there's a church. If you go to East Africa in Zanzibar, where the Arab used to take our people, there is a mosque there. So the coming of Islam and Christianity was the beginning of our evil. And they used the story of Noah to justify it. That Noah's son was cursed. So this is what led to the black man. But when we go to science, we find out that our black skin is due to melanin. It's due to the solar radiation that was coming out in Africa to prevent the destruction of our skin. The nature gave us melanin and natural protection. And the white man is a deep pigmented man due to the eyes and where he wants to live. He doesn't need the melanin to survive. So science has destroyed the myth of your book. So why do we need to continue in the logic of that book? Why? We have to put it away. So that's why we are saying that religion does not provide a good orientation for an African of the 21st century. It has to be in the closet. We need a spiritual thinking that supports science and logic.
Thank you so very much. Again, you are watching Roundtable Africa, a program that know all are here, focus on Liberia provoking African consciousness and asking Africans to take charge of their own responsibility to develop the world's best continent that has less trouble in terms of weather. Imagine if we were developed, if we have all these institutions and businesses. Why winter time when our American partners are crying about coal and doing all that, hurricanes and all that, we don't have to deal with that. Imagine how much billions and trillions we'll be making on that continent. But yeah, we are. We are still trying to find ourselves, who we actually are, and that is sad. We will take a short break. When we come back, the gentleman will be providing solutions to this problem that we have in Africa. A short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we are back with you. We want to advertise Cannon Catch. Cannon Catch is a Liberian business and operated. That's the fastest way to get money to your loved ones in our home country, Liberia. To do so, go to cannoncatch.com and start sending money today. Well, Focus on Liberia this Saturday will be hosting presidential aspiring Councillor Tiawan Gangler. That program starts at 6 p.m. GMT in Liberia and 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. Dennis Jar and I will be on that show as well. This Friday will be a debate about this presidential scholarship headed by Nathaniel Magay, going from county to county, giving several millions of Liberian dollars to students in Liberia. I mean, we will be looking at the ethics of it, all right? And then we'll also be talking about officials in government, some of them ministers, for example, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Health, they have their own businesses in the area that they serve. Conflict of interest, we want to talk about that and many other shows that will be coming here. Gentlemen, time to fast spend. Let's talk solution. Sekou, you said the thing is about consciousness. And you drew a scenario. You can take Liberians and bring them to America to occupy the warehouse or the institution and businesses. You can take the white man with no pen in his hand and take them to Liberia. They will turn Liberia into a befitting country like the US, and many years later, America will be like Liberia, maybe. And you are saying it is because we don't have the consciousness about development. So talking about solution, how do we get that consciousness in your world that should be the catalyst for this development that we want? How do we get it?
Thank you very much. Every country, there is no magic in development. Mm-hmm. Development is just a group of people coming together, take a conscious decision, doing the right things, like building a house. It's not a mistake that you see 10-story buildings standing. The foundation was solid. Mm-hmm. The job was properly done. Procedures were followed. That's why the building is standing. If they make some error, that building will not stand. This is not magic. It is natural law. So in order for development to happen, those things that I mentioned, the culture and consciousness, they are the building blocks of our society. First of all, we have to define ourselves within our universe, because we cannot say development, because development, like I told you, is moving from one stage to the other. So if we are imitating white people, we are imitating the European, then what is our target? What is our limit? What is our vision? Our vision cannot exceed the vision of America. Our vision cannot go beyond the vision of Europe. But if we define our vision, if we define our civilization, then the sky is not even our limit. Are we imitating American democracy that is already falling apart just 200 years? Are we trying to imitate a European lifestyle that is already crumbling? Are we not aspiring to create something better than democracy, better than the capitalist system, better than all these? We can. And the only way we can do that is to go back into the best of our culture and history and look at how the African of Kush and Kemet built a civilization that lasted for 3,000 years. How did they do it? How did they build a civilization that has no prison and no jail? How were they judging people? How did they build a civilization that was so just that every people that came there and said, these people, they were the most honest and just people we have ever seen? The value, how did they build that value? What happened to the Mali and the Ouagadougou Empire that the Arab, who is a Muslim, who was supposed to bring, thinking that he bringing civilization to Africa, Ibn Khaldun, an Arab traveler in the 16th century, come to West Africa and say he has never seen the most just people on earth. This is a man who's supposed to bring a religion to say he's making out to be righteous, but he said he has not seen anybody just than the black people. In their society, when a stranger died, they will make sure even your load, they will keep it and send it back to your country. They do not like injustice. And women walk around in their street with their breasts open. He has not seen one single rape case in his entire life. This is an Arab writing in the 16th century about your people. What kind of value did they have? What kind of consciousness did they have? So we need to go back. And when you fail, you go back to the drawing board. Let's rebuild our culture and civilization. We are not staying being native that they go back and start tying leaves. We're saying go back to the best of what our ancestors had to provide as a paradigm to build a new culture, to build a new civilization. If we do that, we can be able to overtake the Chinese. Have done it. They went, the Mao Zedong made sure that they take their idea from the Confucius philosophy, which is devoid of religion. They operate on the yin and the yang. The Japanese rejected Christianity and Islam. They operated on the Shintoist philosophy and they built a civilization. Let's go back to the philosophy of Imhotep, the great philosopher of Egypt. Let's go back to the Shabaka stone, the great pharaoh of Ethiopia, who was able to produce a stone that explained to you the origin of the universe and how the entire universe will lay out. He have it today. It's in the British Museum, written by black men. What about the philosophy of Kagame? What about the philosophy of Dwarf? What about the philosophy of all these great people, Ptahhotep? We put all those things aside and we start with Plato, Aristotle. We have nothing in common with these people. Their worldview and our worldview is not the same. People don't realize there is a fundamental difference between the white man perception of reality and the African man perception of reality. If you look at our civilization history, you will be able to know that. Until we revert back to our perception of reality and rebuild, we cannot be able to get that excellence black men that we used to have. We cannot have it back.
Thank you, Sekou, and you couldn't have said it better. You know, you said this thing about development, you have to be able to improve your potential. You have to be able to transform it, and that capture it all. Mr. Amara, we're talking solution now. We're talking about fundamental, solution that will serve as the catalyst, like the basis to get it started. He was trying to give an example earlier. The Chinese, they were in the position we find ourselves in now, and they got their act together. Today, almost everything is made in China. I can say even 80% of what we find in America, you see it made in China. Of recent, the Arabs put their act together. Everybody wants to go to Dubai right now. It is not because they have oil and using money. I agree with Sekou. It's because they laid the basis. They agree it was done properly. They had the discipline. They had the consciousness about their own land, their own people, how they will improve their life. Don't these, our leaders have money? Is Nigeria not having all the oil as we speak? But look at Nigeria. Nigeria is supposed to be the best developed country in the world. Looking at the oil Nigeria has and the population that it has, its blessing is that it has education too. But yeah, corruption covers Nigeria. So Sekou, Edward, how did the Chinese and the Arabs do it? Can we follow their example? Do we have it in us as Africans to do so?
Well, I think when we watch China, we need to link certain things to China. In Africa, religion came with the mentality of democracy. And since there is democracy, it's a foreign invasion as religion. Our fabric, the very fabric of Africa that was meant to settle and develop, is now destroyed. We may claim that we have growth in Africa, but there is no development because development is the advanced stage of growth. Or having underscored that, you watch out China, they never embrace the stupid and naive mentality of the liberal democracy that Americans were preaching to them. If China embraces democracy, it is going to affect their moral aspect of living, and it is going to create a pollution into China that everything will go haywire. They refuse to embrace that mentality. There is continual leadership, there is patriotism, and there is continual fundamental development in terms of their policy. You watch at Russia. Russia never encouraged the mentality of the American democracy style. Now they are developed. Let's take another example of a country into the with kind of intercontinental country. Watch at Turkey. Turkey is a bit in Europe, as Russia is also a bit in Asia. You see Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who is leading over there. He never embraced the mentality of democracy, though he may claim that he's been democratically elected. But we have continuation. So maybe there are certain things, because religion you must impose, because even when you watch at the activities of our religious Israel before by then, they use priests to lead the country. So you must have leadership who codify themselves into religion. So when religion came, it followed something following this liberal democracy that came in. Now, it created a kind of revolution and wind of change into Africa that is not meant, that does not have a kind of harmony with the African culture. When you watch Africa keenly and logically, you watch at the north. Before this time, the north, the east, and maybe the southern part of Africa were well developed. But when America realized that though we are having trouble with Gaddafi and others we are there, we understand that they were bad leaders in one or two ways. But Libya was developed. You watch at Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, you name them. These were a developed country. But when they wanted to destroy that very fabric that was, maybe when you watch at North Africa, they wanted to spill their mentality into Africa, maybe continue developing and also introduce certain things that we will not have relied on the Western world for development. What did they do? They introduced the Arab uprising in 2011, and today a lot of havoc is taking place over there. All the jihadis, Islamic Al-Qaeda, all are out of this religion that, or what? The liberal democracy, and the liberal democracy was preaching. I think we need to forget about this too much. I'm not saying we shouldn't be democratic, but too much of one thing is good for nothing. An absolute power corrupt system, absolutely. What does democracy do? When you watch at the presidential system of government, the president has absolute power and they can do anything. And it's indirectly corrupting the very. That is why, since the executive branch of government has too much of power, these people are very careful. They will give the president a levity to go and make whatsoever born with them. At the end of the day, they exploit Africa through those systems that they created. Because they created democracy, they came with religion so that they can have a free will into Africa and do everything that they have. I think we need to de-radicalize our religious system. And at the same time, we really, really need to forget about the aspect of leading Africa on another man's pattern. Democracy and leadership that is being copied from the Western world is definitely not African pattern. And we need to understand that the population of Africa need to develop. Like the type of education that we are having here is more of the one that is bookish. It is not practical and it is not helping Africa. So all of these things need to be revisited because Africa per se have everything it takes for us to develop. Unfortunately, the leaders lack the caliber and they rely solely on the Western world. And they have now made Africa to be a ground where they can export anything they send into the Western world. These are some of the things they need to recheck and maybe change it holistically, or else we are not going anywhere, because religion development is something that is holistic, but it should also be gradual.
Thank you, gentlemen and folks in cyberspace. This is how we will come to the end of this another exciting, informative, and provoking edition of Roundtable Africa here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Follow Focus on Liberia. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. Like our Facebook page so you can get the education that we research and endeavor in every capacity in our being to bring to you. Sekou, you're going to close us, and there's something I'm going to do. One of the religious countries that I know is Iran. You read about Iran. Very religious, yet their education level is so high. And you know that Islam is the predominant religion, but yet they are very educated. Even when you talk about development, they are developing. So how can we still say religion has a part to play in this undevelopment that we are facing in Africa? I want you to close with your analysis on that.
Yes, thank you. Like I said in the beginning, the mere fact that someone, believe in certain deity or ascribe to a particular religion within itself is harmless. It's not that particular belief that bring about underdevelopment, but it is the orientation that the country had about that belief and about that religion, and also how the polarization of religion also in that society is key. I will give you a few examples. You talk about Israel. Israel is a Jewish state, well advanced. You mentioned Iran and what have you. This country, they operate within the culture and consciousness of the majority of their people. The culture and the consciousness. The Iranians don't speak Arabic, despite the Islam. They speak their language. They operate their research, and everything is done in the Iranian language. The Iranians are using Islam for a political tool to galvanize their people and put them together. Islam is not what is used in the classroom to teach sciences. They don't use it as a source of knowledge. They use it as a political tool to put their people together. This is what everybody have used religion for, except Africans. The Europeans use religion as a political tool to take over Africa. The Arab use it as for jihad, to conquer territory. You think they conquer people to convert them? They want their resources. They want to control them. So the only way they can control them is for you to be answering Abdul, and I answer Abdul. They say, you my brother. So I tell you that we are one. So now I can take your resources. You will not fight me anymore, because you and I are going to the same paradigm. So they are looking for allies. Today, if you talk against Arab, your next brother, next to your Fulani or Madingo brother next door will fight you without the Arab man even talking. He has planted a seed in Africa to fight for him. So this is what they have done. So, but the Islam in Iran is a political tool. It's not used in a puritanical sense. That's why the Iranians are benefiting from it. In Africa, Islam does not even have that political power. It's used as a way of knowledge, as a puritanical sense. The Muslim of Africa want to reason from the Quran. He wants to address the war from the Quran. He thinks the war will end in a few years to come. He's going to paradise. The Iranians are using Islam as a way to fight the West. They weaponize it to use it to fight. That's the only way they can galvanize their people to fight against the European power is through Islamic revolution. That's why they use it. We cannot use it in Africa. Why? Because, first of all, we are not all Muslims. A good number of us are Christian, a good number of us are Muslim, a good number of us are traditionalists. So that division alone makes us a bomb. We can only explode and kill each other. We cannot succeed as Iran. So the only way for Africa is to get rid of it or dilute it to a point where it's non-effective and bring the culture as the way for us to move into the future. Religion in Africa will never help because of the history of how it came and how it is being used today by the elite. It will never work. The only way it will work, it is by removing it from the center of knowledge. Let it be retreat to the closets and let us use our own philosophy, the African philosophy, use it to be able to develop our country. That's the only way forward. That is the only way forward. We are not speaking against people's faith or whatever they want to believe in. They can believe in it. But we cannot be, when you talk on the average African today, he wants to reason from his book. And that book cannot be used to reason anything because it's not a scientific book. It's a folklore and a legend. A book where snakes are speaking, a book where Red Sea are parted, a book where sun can come down, and certain people palm, a book where food fall down from in the sky and people eat it. These things, if you do it today, it will be called Hollywood movies. They don't happen in real life. These are folklores and legends that you have to understand that those who wrote this book at the time, they knew that they were telling folklore. They were telling a mythological story, but you think they are real story. You think there was a Moses who parted the Red Sea. That's what you believe. You think there was a snake in a garden that talked to a woman and a man. Like, seriously, you believe that. These things don't happen in the real world. These are mythological stories meant to illustrate a point. So as long as you don't get it, you will. That's why in African spirituality, there is a level of initiation. When you are initiated as a child, they tell you that there is God in heaven, and there is a heaven and hell and everything to make you as a child to have that moral behavior. By the time you get a certain level, you will be initiated, and you will be told that all these things we told you about, the gods, this and that, they are principles and concepts of the world. They are just energy that we are trying to describe to you, but we have to put it in the form of deity for you to understand. Then by the time you graduate again to another level, they will tell you that the truth is, we don't know who God is. And God, for us, is just an energy at work. But they cannot tell you that as a child. They have to tell you when you are reach a certain level so that you can have that understanding. If they tell you as a child, maybe you start thinking too long, too far, too deep. So they have to give you the basis. But you're now taking that basis to be the actual knowledge, and you want to confuse the world. So we are saying that we have to decolonize God in Africa, decolonize religion, and decolonize our education. The African educational system has to be African-centered, so that when it's African-centered, so that the African is now an architect of his own history and culture, then all Africans around the world, they will use their knowledge and their skills to the development of Africa. But right now, their orientation is not in Africa.
Thank you. Decolonize religion, decolonize our educational system, decolonize our thinking, our consciousness, that is the key one, and make it a consciousness that is Afrocentric, Sekou would say. On that note, folks, we want to say thank you for following us today. The program you watch is Roundtable Africa, and you can only find it here at Focus on Liberia. Until we catch you next Wednesday for another exciting edition, I'm Ansony and Sieh on behalf of our crew saying, enjoy the song that says, we are all Liberians. Bye-bye, folks.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.